Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the talk show and podcast where we have digital discussions, worlds of TV, film, news, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You recently has recognized my guest from Mare of Easttown on HBO. Mackenzie Lansing is with us. Mackenzie, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you. We're going to get into Mare of Easttown because the show is amazing. Your performance is fantastic. But I wanted to know in terms of storytelling and acting for you, did that start out as a young age for you? Did you know you wanted to do that at a young age, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people that I just tried everything else and wasn't really good at anything else. But I was like a shy kid, so I started doing, acting as an extracurricular. And yeah, I'm really stubborn, so I just kind of stuck with it, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, Mare of Easttown, miniseries. The miniseries, I feel like, has been around for a long time, but it's just amazing to me how massive the miniseries is, and it's in its own different category. I find like there's the TV show and everything, and this is a miniseries. Does the mindset, do you find when you're reading a script and you're going in for a role, change a little bit for you, miniseries, TV show, film, or is it all the same or depending on the project?
Well, I think especially with this project, because it was so well written, like as soon as I was given new scenes, I just wanted to read them immediately, like even if they had nothing to do with my character, because I was so hooked. And I do think that miniseries, they do that, where you can't just kind of watch it and do something else. You have to give it your full attention, because if not, you'll miss something.
Yep.
And so people get really invested. Yeah, we've seen that with the show already. So
Absolutely. And the show just so like ensemble cast is an understatement. You all do such an amazing job, and everyone kind of shows up. And the show is for people that haven't watched it, is a whodunit, right? There's a murder in a small town, and every episode, a lot of things are said, and a lot of people show up, and you don't know where it's gonna go.
yeah. There are a lot of characters who I think you kind of assume that we're done with, but like you said, it's an ensemble cast. Like everybody keeps coming back because it's that small town thing where everybody knows each other. And I think even for the audience, it's meant for the audience to feel that way. Like they know everyone in the town.
And I want to know more about how you prepared for your character, your role, because, for what we've seen from your character so far, there is the antagonist, bad girl kind of label, you know what I mean? Not a good look in terms of where your character was the night of the murder and that big scene at the restaurant, which was crazy. How did you prepare for a role like that?
I mean, it's definitely far from who I am today, but when I was a teenager, I definitely was, a little bit rambunctious and all that stuff. So I think for me, it was a lot of like looking back and trying to relate to, okay, well, why do you do those things? Like, why do people act out, and how do you justify it in your head so that to you, it makes complete sense that you would act this way? Because you can't play, an antagonist or a villain with the idea that, well, they're a bad guy. Like you're gonna end up playing them like a stereotype, and it does a disservice to the narrative, right? You want people who've been bullied to watch the show and be like, that is my high school bully. And in order to do that, you need, as an actor, to kind of get behind these very problematic views and find a way into that.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, your character in a lot of instances, a lot of characters on the show represents a lot of misunderstood teen angst. There's a lot of that in it as well. And you do a great job with that. Your character comes back in the latest episode, and what I find very interesting about your character as well, and the show in general, and your character Dylan had a great great dialogue, is the conversations between two characters in the show. Like it's just a simple conversation two people having at Easttown. It's so like powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good scene, and I think we're also starting to see other sides of every character. And even with Mare, like, I don't think there's a single character on this show who we don't see a darker side to.
Yeah.
And the people who at first you think are all dark, you start to see a little bit of light in them and maybe understand them a tiny bit more, even if you don't love them, you know?
And it's definitely it's interesting too because there's a lot of shows that you could just watch after a long day at work, right, and just like put on. This one is not that show. You gotta dial in.
You gotta focus. I know what happens, and I still have to like I can't do anything else when I'm watching it, you know?
It's crazy when people watch it. I mean, from what I see, the reception has been amazing. Everyone's on the same page as me. Like people love it and everything. What has the specific reception been like from your family and friends watching this so far?
Oh, you know, I mean, they love the show. They absolutely are obsessed with it. Like I met up with a couple of friends for like an outdoor picnic, and it was like 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and they were like, "We have to go home," and I was like, "Why?" They're like, "We have to go watch Mare of Easttown." I was like, "Guys, I'm not even gonna watch it as soon as it comes out," and they're like, "No, no, like this isn't about you. We have to watch it."
But because I think there is that, like every episode, because it's an hour long, that's kind of the typical length of it. And every episode, more kind of like we said about the ensemble cast, like more things happen, more characters like reappear. And it's just like the Monday is just me like thinking about a lot of things. Like that doesn't happen a lot with shows with me.
Yeah. I think that's actually everybody has been emailing me their theories, like everyone, my whole family, like nobody wants to talk about anything except Easttown, and everybody's trying to like guess like who did it or whatever. It's really interesting to see all the different theories and stuff.
Absolutely. The obvious answer. Well, I actually don't I don't want to go into the theories because I have my own theories, but I need to go in. No, it's funny because it's even the same with like Marvel and DC, right? Everyone has theories about everything and they're all on the internet. And you kind of like, what if they're right? And you will get spoiled, right?
Yeah, I haven't read all of them. I'm assuming someone's got to be pretty close, right?
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I've read some of them, but I haven't read all of them.
Well, at this point, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, like we're really into like we're into the meat and potatoes of Mare of Easttown. There's only a few episodes left. I mean, it can go either way. Like there's like 9 people I suspect. You know what I mean? So, which is exciting. The obvious answer to this question, Mackenzie, is you hope that people enjoy the reception. But like diving deep into it, when people watch Mare of Easttown, what are you hoping they get out of it?
I mean, I think that this show is so layered. There are a lot of things you can get out of it. And obviously, like when I'm reading the script, I'm, working on my character. So I'm viewing a lot of it through like her lens. So all I can really speak to is what I got out of it reading the script and working on the show was that feeling of being stuck in your circumstances and stuck in a small town and feeling prisoner to sort of like what you've been dealt.
Yep.
And how even though obviously we all have our circumstances, like there are choices you can make. And we have choices to let go, to move on, to try to break free. And I think that even though this show has some darkness to it, I think that there's so much hope in there, if you know where to look for it.
100%. And I was just curious too, because, Kate Winslet is an executive producer on the show as well. And a lot of people, in the entertainment, like the storytellers, because that's what you do. You are a storyteller. Your acting seems to be like the primary focus, but a lot of people end up doing like going beyond just being on camera and like directing, writing, producing, working on projects like this and, getting really into it. Does it make you kind of think about maybe going behind the camera as well down the road, or is acting something you're focusing on a lot now?
I mean, I've always been a writer.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the second thing for me, but I really like the path that Kate has had of sort of being like, I want to be I want to service a project as an actor. And then now that she's further along in her career, she's getting involved in producing. And that's something that I would be interested in. I don't necessarily see myself as a director just because, but who knows?
Yeah.
But I definitely saw, like, through watching her produce and stuff, I was like, oh, this is something like I think I could do, leadership skills, organizational skills. Like it takes a lot of that. But right now I'm already a writer, and that would be like the next thing that I would want to move up towards is writing for TV and acting for something that I've written, hopefully.
It's funny because I will ask people that wear many hats and do like the writing, the directing, the producing, the acting. Like if there was one they preferred over the other, and like you get from time to time people saying like, "Oh, I like them all equally," but most of the time people put acting first. Like people have no hesitation. Like I like acting out of all of them.
Yeah, you kind of have to know, I think, what your main focus is. Like some people really can split their time between everything and they do it great. But for me personally, my experience has been I'm an actor first, writer second, and then everything else is sort of like we'll see down the line kind of thing.
Absolutely. I do want to get back to Mare of Easttown for a wrap up as well, because I want to know more about the restaurant scene, because that scene is just. I just want to know because, that's a great scene with Kate and a lot's going on. Is there anything you could tell me about that scene in terms of the preparation? What was it like? That was a crazy scene.
Yeah, I mean, for a scene like that, you have to do rehearsals. So we did a rehearsal. I think that was my first day on set was rehearsing for that scene, but we ended up shooting it much later because of COVID and things like that. But it was a lot of, at first, just sort of awkwardly, blocking and all that stuff. But once we got into it, there was a lot of improving and stuff like that with like, when she escorts me out the door, the second door at the end where I like kick it open with my feet and like curse at her. And like, we did a lot of like ad-libbing and stuff when we were in scenes together, which was really fun. And
your scene dad, your on-screen dad, throws the milk carton at the house.
Yeah.
Like that was big. And that started for me to have like what we were talking about with the theories where I said there's like 8 or 9 people. That was like your screen dad's acting really intense. Like it's beyond just protecting your daughter. So it's like the show just does a really good job at like luring you in different directions in terms of who is it.
But also, like, that's something I could see happening in a small town, like in my town. Like, you took my daughter down to the station, I'm going to throw a milk jug through the window. Like, that's absolutely, it's weirdly realistic. And the way she reacts to it in that moment is priceless. For a lot of people, I think that's when they were hooked to the show. Yeah,
and everyone, there's a lot of people that live in small towns like that, and it's like that. Everyone knows each other. So the awkward aspect is, like, they know, like, Mare and they know each other.
Yeah, when we were talking with Kate about like backstories and stuff, she was like, I feel like I've always known you and I've always thought you were kind of a little shit. Like since you were a kid. And we're just
Mackenzie, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
So Mare of Easttown, Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern on HBO. I mean, we're getting down to it. There's a few episodes left. I mean,
2 episodes left.
It's gonna be a little bittersweet when it's over. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
You can follow me on Instagram at Mackenzie Lansing, so my first and last name, and on Twitter at Mac Lansing.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Mackenzie Lansing and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.